How's everyone doing today? It's your boy JJ Domination, and holy crap, we're here with episode 2 of teams you should consider using in Madden 20's NFL franchise mode. Yeah, I have the proper title name for the first episode. Sorry if I don't remember it. My bad, y'all. But we're gonna get into the second team you should consider using for franchise mode, whether it be well, for this it's really realistic, but like I said, if y'all have any fantasy ones, I'll probably do a video on it in the future. But the first team that we talked about was the Cincinnati Bengals, and I think I'm ready to go for team number 2. So we talked about the Bengals already, and I think for team number 2 for a realistic rebuild, this is an interesting one. What direction do I want to go in with this? I did the Bengals. I'm not going to put that many teams on here, so that's why I'm kind of thinking of what the second team should be. I'm just going to scroll through every team real quick, because I have an order. I'm going to do it basically in order of how you see these listed. But I'm going to go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, man. I thought about the Bills and the Broncos, but honestly, I know those were popular options last year. And the Buccaneers, I actually did a series on them in 2016 or 2017. But let's just go ahead and get right into it. So you have Jameis Winston, who is basically on a 1-year prove-it deal because he does have his 5th-year option picked up as the quarterback for the Buccaneers. New head coach in town, Bruce Arians, who apparently has the reputation of being a quarterback whisperer. Maybe he can help Jameis Winston get on track. And, honestly, Jameis Winston's a below-average quarterback. And the thing that really puts him in below average is all of the turnovers and the bad plays. Truth be told, he can get you a lot of yards. He can get you touchdowns. But he's just very inconsistent. A lot of turnovers. And it just, I don't know, man. This was just one of the guys that I was wrong about, I guess, with Jameis Winston. I don't really know what else to say. But you also have Blaine Gabbert, who was a former Bruce Arians guy. Was able to win 7 games with Blaine Gabbert at quarterback. And then you also have Ryan Griffin, not RG3 though, and Nick Fitzgerald, who I think he was on the practice squad or something. But you got Jameis, you got Blaine Gabbert. Couple of decent options there at quarterback. Now to the running back room. In my opinion, this is the worst running back room in the league. Peyton Barber, it's not that I don't think he's a starting caliber running back, but he's the worst starting running back in football, if that makes sense. There are running backs who are running back number 2 on their team that are better than Peyton Barber. And that just says a lot to me. Ronald Jones apparently last year had problems learning the playbook. This year he's been progressing better, so we'll see if he actually ends up playing. Sean Wilson, I don't know much about, and then Dare, I don't know much about, but this is a pretty bad running back room. Running back is one of those positions that it's pretty easy to fix, and it's pretty easy to make work with what you got. So next season it should be interesting. In real life, how in real life, it'll be interesting to see how Tampa Bay, the Buccaneers, handle this situation. And then in Madden 20, if you use the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or if I were to use the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it'd be interesting to see how the running back situation gets handled. Do you bring in a free agent? Do you draft a guy? That part will be interesting. At wide receiver now, we do have 2 really good options right here. Mike Evans, who is always in the conversation for top 5, top 10 wide receivers. He's always up there. Last season was top 3 in yards for receivers. He may have even been number 1. I don't quite remember, but Mike Evans is always at the top of the conversation, which is funny because Jameis Winston we consider a below average quarterback, and Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's good for a solid 2 or 3 weeks, and then he just falls off the face of the earth. So considering the not so great quarterback play, Mike Evans always finds himself towards the top. And then Chris Godwin, more of a weapon in this receiving core. I think this is the year he steps up. No Deshaun Jackson, no Adam Humphries. Someone has to emerge, and I think Chris Godwin can be that guy this year. You also have Rashad Perryman, who almost re-signed with the Cleveland Browns, but then they made the Odell Beckham trade, and he was like, nah, fam. He pretty much knew he was not going to play anymore, so He came here to Tampa Bay. He was formerly drafted by the Baltimore Ravens. He's basically been a bust. At least a draft pick that didn't live up to expectations. I wouldn't say a bust because he has been able to find work, but he just hasn't really been that good. And then also down here you have Justin Watson, who, you know, decent, I guess. Scott Miller, I don't know much about. He is a rookie this year, of course. And then Bobo Wilson, more of a special team guy. The tight end room is a pretty good one. They have 3 pretty solid tight ends, man. O.J. Howard, who has the potential to be a breakout candidate, just not only for the team, but in the NFL. Like, he could assert himself pretty close to that elite category, if not in that elite category for tight ends. You have Cameron Brate, who's just a reliable pair of hands, just a really good veteran presence. Very reliable as well. And then you have Jordan Leggett, who's a younger tight end. He was on the New York Jets. Kind of didn't play due to injury and just being inconsistent, but he's young, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers took a flyer on him, and apparently 5 teams had waiver claims on him, but Tampa Bay was the first one, so they were the ones that were able to take it. I know the Oakland Raiders were a team that was interested. Green Bay had a waiver claim on him as well. I can't remember the other 2 teams, and I don't want to spread false news. Anthony Auclair, he's more of a fullback for this team. He was pretty good in that role. Tanner Hudson and Donnie Ernsberger, I don't really know a whole lot about. And then Garrison, he is their long snapper. So there you go. On the offensive line, Donathan Smith has a 3-year extension to him. Similar to what we said about Bobby Hart at right tackle for the Cincinnati Bengals, Donathan Smith is a low-end starting left tackle, but because there's not that many good left tackles, in the league, and I'm not saying that in a bad way, because trust me, there are great left tackles in this league. You have David Bakhtiari, Jason Peters, Tyron Smith, Trent Williams. I mean, there's definitely some really great left tackles, and I'm pretty sure, like, Taylor Lewan, Jake Matthews. I mean, there are guys that I'm kind of remembering and kind of forgetting at the same time, so that's always interesting. But you get towards like the bottom half, and it's like the left tackle depth across the NFL isn't really that good, and it's just a little weird, interesting situation. Cyrus and Matt, I don't really know a whole lot about, so I'm not going to comment. Ali Marpet is one of the best young guards in football. And in terms of just guards overall, I mean, he's decent. Not decent, but he's definitely above average. That's what I should say. But he's just one of the better guards, kind of hindered by the overall strength of the offensive line, but he was a rookie who had a killer Senior Bowl, had a good combine, and the Buccaneers took him in the 3rd round, and it ended up panning out. It was one of those picks where you weren't really sure if you should take him early. They took the risk, and we'll show you an example of a risk that they took similar to Ali Marpet that didn't end up panning out so far. Still a long ways to go. And then Mike Liedtke, just a decent backup, I suppose. That's about it. At center, you have Ryan Jensen, who started for the Baltimore Ravens for 1 season and basically got a contract off of that 1 season. Ryan Jensen's a solid center. Nothing too crazy, nothing too special, but he's a solid center, can get the job done. And then Evan Smith, a longtime veteran in the NFL. A good mentor for the entire offensive line, a good locker room dude. But, yeah, that's basically the center position. Not too bad. Here is where I was telling you about the other example. Alex Kappa. So, he had a pretty good Senior Bowl, and the combine was pretty solid as well. This is a guy who, he wasn't drafted super high. He was like a 6th-round pick. But still, like, a guy who had a similar background to Ali Marpet, and he just didn't pan out. This was a situation where Tampa Bay was like, oh, well, we did it before and it ended up working, let's see if we could get lightning in a bottle twice. And it just proved that Tampa Bay obviously couldn't do that. But he's still got a long ways to go. It is his 2nd season in the NFL this upcoming season, so we'll have to wait and see. And then finally at right tackle, we have DeMar Dotson, who is getting up there in age. I don't know how great of a football player he will be for the rest of his career. Maybe 1 or 2 more seasons, maybe if he's lucky. But DeMar Dotson, really a late bloomer in his career with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But, we'll have to see how they fix the right tackle position after his absence. And, if you're using this team and franchise, you'll have to see as well. On the defensive line, they are switching to a 3-4, which is interesting. You have William Golston, and then you have Bo Allen. Bo Allen, of course, played with the Philadelphia Eagles. William Golston, a guy that can basically play in both schemes. Not really a great player, but he's a decent depth guy, but he is forced to start, I guess. This team did pick up Ndamukong Suh and released Gerald McCoy. It saved them cap by doing that, and you basically get 2 players who are basically similar in terms of where they are on the pecking order for interior defensive linemen. And Ndamukong Suh is the better run stopper. He's not going to give you the pass rush that Gerald McCoy did, even though last season he did show signs that he can be a decent pass rusher for the position, or an above average one. But granted, he played next to Aaron Donald. There's no one even close to Aaron Donald level on this team. You also have Jeremiah Ledbetter, who he's decent, another good backup. And then Damone Harris, kind of an unproven commodity we don't really know much about. And finally, Vita Vea at nose tackle. This is what Vita Vea is a nose tackle, not a 4-3 defensive tackle. He is a nose tackle. He is a Danny Shelton type of player. And it's funny because they both went to the University of Washington. Vita Vea didn't have the greatest of rookie seasons. The first half of his rookie season was just terrible. The second half, it got a little bit better. But overall, not good. But shout out to Vita Vea. This year he'll be playing his true position, and we'll see how it goes. This team did also draft Terry Beckner Jr. I don't know if he's going to be playing defensive tackle or if he's going to play defensive end. It's very interesting. He does have good size, though, and it'll be interesting to see where they play him. He's actually a pretty good athlete. And then Paul Boyette Jr., I don't know much about. And then at the linebacker position, we do have Carl Nassib there as a backup and Shaquille Barrett as a starter. So Shaquille Barrett is an interesting player that they picked up because he's one of those players who has never had a full opportunity to be a starter. It was always somebody in front of him, whether it was DeMarcus Ware or Bradley Chubb coming in or Shane Ray starting to emerge. Shaquille Barrett's been one of those players who's good, but he's never quite, reached that next level. He's kind of been the same player ever since he's gotten to the NFL, which is a solid rotational pass rusher. Maybe this year he takes that next step because there's not much else, going on with pass rushing, so we'll just have to wait and see, I guess. Carl Nassib played better as a 4-3 defensive end. As a 3-4 outside linebacker, I don't know. That's a tough call. Carl Nassib was a really good, not a really good, but he was a better defensive end than outside linebacker. So this is going to be a tough transition for me to have to watch. But Emmanuel Smith, special teamer. At middle linebacker, it's a pretty solid room. I think Kendall Beckwith is injured again in real life. But you have Levante David, of course, one of the best in the game. Just overall across the board. You have Devin White, and like I said, these aren't my rosters, so don't flip out at the 83 overall rating. I didn't make these rosters. But Devin White, he's an amazing athlete, a great run defender, has the potential to be even, on that same level of pass defense. But because he was recruited as a running back, converted to middle linebacker, he ought to know how to play run defense, and he is really good at it. This team also did pick up Dayon Buchanan, of course, a former safety converted to linebacker, played under Todd Bowles and Bruce Arians. Or no, he played under Bruce Arians, but he said Todd Bowles is a guy he's always wanted to work with, which, by the way, Todd Bowles is running the defense now, if you didn't know. So Dayon Buchanan, I'm interested to see how they use him. They also have Kevin Minter, who at this point of his career, more of a special teamer, but he does have that Bruce Arian tie to him. Like, he has played with Bruce Arians before, so familiar to the system. And then these two guys, you know, they may not even make the roster. You have Jason Pierre-Paul, who, you know, he has like a fractured neck or something. Just this guy and off-season injuries, just, they're like a match made in heaven. I mean, it's like every offseason something's going on with Jason Pierre-Paul, and I feel bad for him. You know, a lot of it is kind of freak accident stuff, and some of it's just stupid. But this was a freak accident, man. I'm pretty sure he didn't get in a car and say, hey, I'm going to go get a fractured neck today. Like, that just kind of happened out of nowhere, literally out of nowhere. So he's probably not going to play until October, and I would not be surprised if he didn't play at all, because Tampa Bay might want to, you know, let him rest up, man. But I think he is in the last year of his contract, so it probably is in the best interest to get him out there and, you know, see what's up. They also have Noah Spence, who I think he'll be better at the outside linebacker position. Noah Spence was a player that a lot of people seem to be, you know, a little bit higher on than me anyway. I always thought Noah Spence could be decent. Some people thought he would be like a stud, superstar player. Not a superstar player, but some thought he would be like a stud, like a really good high-end player. And he just hasn't been that yet. And maybe a scheme change will help him develop, help him reach that next level. And then Anthony Nelson out of Iowa. It'll be very interesting to see where he plays. To me, he's more of a 4-3 defensive end, similar to Carl Nassib. But here he is playing in a 3-4. It'll be interesting to see how he's used. We look here at corner. No one that really stands out to me. It's just a bunch of guys, you know. But like, obviously I know a lot about most of these players. MJ Stewart was drafted last year. He was pretty decent in spots. Let's see, Carlton Davis. I feel like this is the wrong scheme for him, just based on his skill set. This is not the best scheme for him. Vernon Hargreaves is more of a nickel corner last season. Sean Bunting from Central Michigan, pretty good athlete, a great athlete, and he was kind of flying under the radar, but I mean, second round, was it really, you know, with better corners on the board, was it really worth it? I mean, hey, you never know. Jamal Dean had the fastest time of any corner, so that's interesting. I guess they just took him because of the speed. No, I'm just playing. Of course, there had to have been something there. But yeah, this is a decent cornerback room. It's just who's going to emerge, man. Someone's got to take that next step. And for Vernon Hargreaves, you've kind of been waiting, and it hasn't happened. And then, you know, it's just a very young cornerback room. Someone has to emerge. Justin Evans at free safety showed that he could, you know, play the position pretty well. There's some promise there with Justin Evans to play free safety. Actually, not bad. And then David Rivers, I don't know a whole lot about. But then it's strong safety. It's actually a four-way race. I don't really know who's going to play. I think the favorite is Jordan Whitehead, according to the team. You have Mike Edwards from Kentucky that you drafted. Kentrell Bryce, who, you know, as a Packer fan, I do know a lot about Kentrell Bryce. My personal opinion, not a good starter, but good in certain situations. If you could get him on the field like a few times a game, you know, like 10 snaps a game on defense, you know, that's okay. But don't make him a full-blown starter. He is not good. And then Isaiah Johnson, he potentially has a chance, but he really just plays special teams. But Jordan Whitehead, it seems like it's going to be his job. This team doesn't have Kairos Santos anymore. I don't know why he's here. But Matt Gay is their kicker from Utah. This team doesn't have Brian Anger anymore, but he's on this roster. They actually have Bradley Pinion. But this is a very intriguing roster. Of course, a lot of decisions to be made immediately after year one, especially with Jameis Winston. Is he your quarterback moving forward, or are you going to move on and look for a different option? And, of course, with the defense, trying to see if this 3-4 will work. And if not, will you move back to a 4-3, or will you just move on from the pieces you have and try to find guys that fit your defense? It's a very interesting rebuild with Tampa Bay. Definitely going to be a fun, realistic franchise for those out there. So I'm excited. This is definitely one of those teams I would consider. That's why they're on this list with Cincinnati. And the next video, you'll be seeing the next team. So peace out.